Well, hello, everyone. My name is Rob Rienow with Visionary Family Ministries, and you are in for a treat today. I have got the opportunity to spend some time interviewing Professor Ben Freudenburg. He is with the Concordia Center for the Family. God has used Ben to impact church leaders all over the world for the last 25 years, helping them catch a vision for equipping families, strengthening families, partnering with the home for the advance of the gospel. And personally, Ben, let me just say, I am so grateful for your mentorship in my life. So grateful for your friendship. Your book, Family Friendly Church, was so formative in my life as a father and also as a church leader. So I am thrilled to have this chance to talk to you today. I'm excited for everybody tuning in and then everybody connecting with the recording later to be encouraged by what you have to share. For those of you that have already joined us for our first two interviews, those are available at equipfamilies.net. We've got 4 more coming up this month. Also at that website, equipfamilies.net, you can learn about those upcoming events and how you can register and be a part of it. So Ben, let me dive in with this first question for you. What can the church learn from this COVID-19 situation about helping families thrive for the sake of the gospel?
I think that what's really been impressed on my heart is the vital role that families play in our society and the church. COVID-19, all of a sudden, this nasty little virus placed us all at home. And then we've been served by these workers that have kept us going, healing us in the hospitals, bringing food, all these different services from our civil government, and then the teachers keep teaching online, professors keep professing online. Yet I believe that they should really be celebrated, but really there's a lot of at-home heroes, a lot of people listening, like pastors that have stayed at home that really need to be celebrated, a lot of parents and families that have stayed at home working, at home, and at the same time being the teacher, the nurse, the recreation leader, the faith developer, all of those things all of a sudden became the home's responsibility. And what's really interesting to me, what I've learned is, God is so great, with this little nasty virus accomplished in one day what I've been trying to do for the last 25 years. Okay. All of a sudden, parents were at home taking the primary role for faith and life. And all the church could do is partner with those families from afar. And the really key here is that Christian parents all of a sudden had to take full responsibility for teaching the faith at home. And so the first learning I think COVID-19 has given to me and probably to all our listeners right now is that, wow, the family is so important in the faith and life development of our culture and in our church. And when the church does the right thing with parents, it can impact the whole community for Christ. And I'm sure that the church workers that we're talking with, that I value so much, our partners in ministry, have seen the impact that COVID-19 has had on relationships, family relationships. And staying at home has strengthened some and created a ton of stress in others.
Let me ask you a question about that. As pastors and church leaders are reaching out to families right now, sometimes that's happening with phone calls, texts, and emails, and all those sorts of things. Are there some specific questions that a pastor could keep in mind as they want to connect with a family who may be in quarantine or staying at home right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would, if I were in the church right now and I was working in a congregation, I'd be on the phone and I would be calling parents and grandparents, members of the congregation, asking this question. I would ask them, how has COVID-19 and the stay-at-home order impacted? And I'd start with your kids. how has it impacted your kids? Because, you know, that they'll talk forever, right? And then I would go, how has it impacted your own parents and your grandparents? And then I would go to the one, how has it impacted your neighbors? And I don't know about you, but my neighbors, I didn't even know as many. I got neighbors everywhere now that have become friends. We see each other all the time. And then the last one I would say is, how has this impacted your relationship with your spouse? And those 4 questions at the end, I would ask, now, how can I pray for you? How can I pray for you? You see, I think the COVID-19 has taught us another lesson, how important the church is. Walking with the families, understanding their needs, and then giving them the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to be able to face the storms of life and get through them, and actually not only weather the storms, but become better because of the storms that we face. So, you know, I think we really ought to celebrate these heroes.
Yeah, well, one of the things that you taught me, and the Lord really used you to have it hit home, is that our life at home really is a ministry. So being a sibling is a ministry, being a spouse is a ministry, being a parent is a ministry. And with COVID, we've had a lot of extra ministry at home.
Exactly.
So you were sharing with me some ideas for how churches can celebrate these stay-at-home ministry heroes. Can you give me some ideas for how churches could highlight this during this time?
I've been thinking about this a lot, you know, because this could really shift people's thinking. I think people are open to this. And so maybe even online, or when you start back, you could hand out, I did my best as mom and dad awards. You know, have them stand up. Yeah, I did my best. Or how about this one? I survived, or we survived as a couple award, you know? And I mean, I can see, you know, if you've survived as a couple, stand up, you know? How about we cared for our aging parents awards? I mean, that has been huge in the lives of members of our churches. Or the best teacher at home award. Many of us have had to pitch in there. Or the stay at home safe award for teaching the faith. I mean, you know, the idea here is that as we're doing this celebration, we could plant the seed that, you know, in case this happens again, we're going to put our energy into actually preparing homes better for maybe fall, when we're at a stay-at-home point again, or by God's grace, this never happens. But if we're prevented for other reasons for being at church. And then, you know what I would do? Another idea I would give you is, after listening to Glenn Gritson, listening posts, so that families could share their COVID-19 stories. And then maybe have them on video and show them on the video screens in church when you come back together, or just post them online. Because one of our jobs is just to listen, to hear their stories. And, you know, we might want to celebrate not only the new beginnings, you know, getting together again, but also the brokenness of the families. And maybe we need to help people learn how to say, I'm sorry and you're forgiven again, to each other at home, not just at church, but how do we do that at home? And then finally, I would really encourage us, if we have the stay-at-home order in the fall, if that happens, that we really work at preparing families to be at worship at home through family devotions, get them ready to do discipleship at home, couple discipleship, as well as kid discipleship. You see, I'm going to read this next learning to you, because I think this is just an amazing thought God's given to me. I think COVID-19 has taught all of us, church workers, pastors, church leaders, that if we want to have thriving and growing churches, we need thriving and growing families. You've said to me, Rob, over and over again, the family is the engine of exponential growth. Okay? Therefore, it makes sense that churches are growing exponentially because they believe family discipleship is key to kingdom growth. Therefore, they're equipping families to be family disciples or to take on that family discipleship role. And the converse is true also. Or they're exponentially dying because they don't believe family discipleship is biblical. For me, I really sense that COVID-19, God's up to something here. And that's a great learning.
Yeah. You know, Ben, a couple minutes ago, you said that the virus did in one day what you've been trying to do in 25 years. In other words, you've been saying we've got to get faith in the home. We've got to get faith in the home. And now that's what everybody's talking about because we can't meet at our church buildings, depending on where we are in the world right now. What would you say to that church leader that's watching, that the light bulbs are just starting to go off about the need biblically and practically for family ministry? Where should they even start this journey?
Yeah. Well, I love this saying, you can't do what you don't know. You can't do what you don't know, okay? And one of the things that the church really hasn't done very well with is training people, our leaders, our pastors and church workers in family life, education, and ministry. I mean, if you really think about it, we got great training in worship and biblical theology. We got great training in discipleship, youth ministry, family ministry, men's ministry, women's ministry, all these different ministries, but not so much in family ministry. Okay, so you can't do what you don't know. And so I'd just like to share my definition of family ministry. I'm just going to read it again. Family ministry equips individuals with knowledge, skills, and attitudes to form positive relationships and healthy Christian marriages and families, who come to know and apply a biblical, confessional, and theoretical perspective to forming Christian marriages and families in order to build strengths and avert problems. In other words, family ministry is building into people the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to prevent problems from happening. Okay, that's what this is all about. And it's based in the Christian world on our biblical and our denominational confessions. Okay, and that's what's unique. The church has this great opportunity. And until I did research on my book, The Family Friendly Church, I didn't know how much I didn't know about helping marriages and parenting. So I went on to get my master's degree in family life education at Concordia University in Seward. Okay, that's what prepared me to be able to go back into the church and do family ministry. I got theology, family science, and a lot of practical skills in how to do this. Okay, then I went on to build the undergraduate academic program at Concordia University, Ann Arbor, in family ministry, and then helped the Concordia University in Mequon build their online master's program. You see, you can't do what you don't know. And so I really believe that we've got to get some training. Now, you don't have to go to an academic program, but I would really start with reading a book by this guy named Prof. Rienow. Okay, it's Limited Church, Unlimited Kingdom. Just read the theology of the Old and New Testament. If nothing else, get those chapters down. Okay, and then go on to read his visionary parent book. That is so key. And then the next one you have to do is start reading this one, Handing Out Life by Reverend Todd Bierman. This gets your priorities straight, biblical priorities. Now, tomorrow at 10 o'clock a.m., not tomorrow, Thursday, you've got to hear this guy. He changed my life in my thinking about my priorities at home. Then go ahead and read this one. I don't know, Scott Transky, this guy, okay? This tells you that not only practical skills, but the theology of parenting, okay? Becoming a Missional Family by Dr. P.C. Matthew from India. Oh my goodness. Right Now Media gives you free access to a 7-video series. I'll tell you this, I've got 150 of this book and the study guide. Any staff that wants to email me, I will send you this book free if you promise to do it with your staff and do the Right Now video. Then you can go to this one, Inverse Ministries, Clinton Penny Bragg's Your Marriage, God's Mission. Now, after you've done that, dust off this old book. It might make more sense, okay? Now, and then don't forget to go to a D6 conference. I mean, so if you're going to do anything, you just got to get more knowledge, skills, and attitudes about this whole thing.
Great. Ben, I've got a couple more questions, but I wanted to take a question that came in from a viewer right now, because I think that it connects with what you were just saying. And by the way, for those of you that are online, please use that Q&A box to type in a question that you can have Ben address. But you just talked about P.C. Matthews' book, The Missional Family. And with all of the chaos in our country right now, how do you think that family ministry, in other words, strengthening the Christian home, what would that have to do, or how could that make an impact in reconciliation in the broader culture?
Well, when the Christ lives in us, really, it's like the leaven. It's like the leaven in the loaf of bread. And the more that we are godly in our culture, we become that leaven. And that leaven will actually make a huge difference in the world. And it's by number, right? We need to continue to have more and more leaven and light in the world. And just by being Christians, it will change the culture. It will resolve a lot of the issues. I mean, I can't believe how many people have tried to take advantage of this disease for personal gain. I mean, that's not leaven. That's not the Christian way. And so I think Christ already gave us the answer. You are the light of the world. Be the leaven. You're the salt. Make a difference. That's how we do it.
Yeah. Amen. Let me ask you a more maybe personal or more difficult question. There's a lot of us in church leadership that we pour out so much of ourselves at church and focus on coming alongside other people's families, other people's kids, other people's marriages, that we end up really neglecting our own families and our own homes. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Another little thing, stay home. If you really want to make a difference, don't follow what Ben did, but stay home and put your ministry to your family first. That's really important. I'll never forget what, Rob, you said at a D6 conference. You were talking about small group ministries at church and how we try to use small groups to build authentic Christian community. And you said, if you want authentic Christian community, go home. I'll never forget that. And it just struck with me, that you weren't saying don't do small groups at church, but don't forget that you have a small group at home that you can use to influence their life for Christ in a powerful way. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying stay home and don't do your church work. I'm not saying that at all. I think if there's one thing a church worker can do is to make sure that their wife, or their spouse, their husband, and their children know that they're the very most important priority on earth to the pastor or to the church worker. And
Ben,
if they can get that right, you can work 40, 60 hours at church, but they still know they're the most important.
Ben, I know that's kind of a personal question for you because you've written and shared about your testimony in your early days of ministry. Could you just briefly share personally kind of the wake-up call that God had to give you as a church leader as it related to your own family?
I don't really want to, but I will, because it's not a happy story. I was in a number of years, and my wife kind of came to me and said, Ben, if you don't change the way you do ministry, I'm going to change the way we do marriage. And she told me that with great courage because I needed to hear it. And she has told me later she would have never divorced me, but she needed to do something drastic to get me to change. That was 25 years ago. And I was putting so much energy into the church ministry that I was neglecting my own ministry. I had the priorities backwards. I had Christ first and church second. That's not the way it is. It's Christ first and your wife second and your family third. And you're going to hear more about that later on.
No.
And what happened is that it not only affected my life personally, but it affected my ministry. And so I really had to. God hit me in the head with a 2x4 and said, "Wake up, Freudenburg. You've got your priorities wrong," and that changed my life.
And I guess I would piggyback on that for those that are listening, just to say that it's never too late for God to turn your heart to your family, to reprioritize your heart so that he comes first, your family comes second, and your public ministry comes third. You may feel like it's too late or things have happened in the marriage that are too deep, or you've lost relationships with your kids, but it's never too late for God to do what he did in your life, Ben. So thank you for sharing that. Ben,
it's not only never too late, it's the right thing to do no matter what season of life you're in. And God will bless it. And he's blessed my life because of that.
Amen. I've got a question from a viewer here, Ben. What is the first step that parents could take right now to help the family together be on mission together? It's going back a little bit to the missional family question before, but what do you think if you had a parent that came to you and said, what could I be doing with my children right now to help them understand our families on mission for Christ? What would you say to that parent?
Well, first of all, that's a great question. And that means that the heart of that family is already engaged in Christ, and they're attractive to other people. Other people want to be around them. They're a worshiping family. And so then as they begin to say, well, how can I impact with my family the community for Christ? Okay. What that looks like is you think about who in your neighborhood or in your extended family needs Christ the most. And you begin to think about your gifts and abilities and how you might reach them for Christ. It's much easier to invite somebody over for dinner than it is to invite them to go to church with you if they're not going to church. And so how do you get involved in their life and then actually help them? There might be a neighbor next door that is a single mom and she can't get up and clean her gutters. Offer to go clean her gutters, and then they're going to ask, well, why do you do that? Why are you doing that for me? Let me pay you to do that. And you say, no, it's just something we want to do. It gives you an opportunity to talk about Christ in your life. So it's not necessarily another program. It's just being godly people in your neighborhood and following God's love and grace and sharing that love and grace by action in your community. Yeah.
Amen. Okay, I've got a question, Ben. People were excited about your missional family book giveaway. Well, please have Ben repeat how we can get that missional family book or materials.
Okay, just email me at ben.freudenberg@cuaa.edu. It's on my website is on that handout, and just email me how many copies you want. And I will send them to you. But you have to guarantee me that you're going to take your staff through that or your church leaders through that study. It will change the way your leaders see church. It will change.
So as a reminder, all 7 of these interviews we're doing are available at equipfamilies.net. The upcoming 4 are there available for you to register for. The 2 that have already happened, the videos are there. You can go watch along with handouts and resources that are mentioned here. So if you go to equipfamilies.net, you go to this interview, you'll see a link that Ben has provided. It's actually got a lot of the notes and things that he's shared here as well as his website, so you could contact him. Ben, I've got a great question. We've got 5 minutes left. Many Christ-following families have experienced a new vitality in home discipleship. In other words, because of COVID, families that never used to pray together, they're praying together. Families that never used to maybe do Bible together, they're having some Bible time together. How can they keep it going when life emerges with some sense of normalcy? And how can church leaders help them keep it going?
I'm going to just recommend two things. You're going to hear from Family Time. I would highly recommend that you connect with Family Time and start having opportunities at church to train parents to even be better at teaching the faith at home. And so what I would do immediately is develop a training system at church to equip parents. And I'm going to give you three things. First, you train the parents in the curriculum what you want them to use at church. Then you bring the kids of the parents to church and have them practice at church. Then you make sure that they have the resources to take home and do it. And then about halfway through, maybe in 6 or 8 weeks, you get the people back together and have some questions and answers. And so the church can begin supporting that by providing the resources and the training to give parents confidence that they can do this, that they can do it. And there's plenty of resources. Faith Legacy is another great resource to help parents with this process. So that, again, the church needs to set up not more activities at church, but training at church to support the parents and what they're asking help with.
Another question, Ben. As different states are opening up, and God willing, we will be back to full-scale church in God's timing. There's already such a pressure or a desire, because we view the church building as the center where ministry happens. There's already this desire to get back to full maximum church building programming. What would happen if everything gets pressed back into the church and we lose the gains that we've had in the home? What if the church building becomes bright again, but the homes go dark? What do you think is going to happen in the next 50, 100 years of the church around the world?
Exponential decline of the kingdom of God. It will, that's not a biblical, biblically, this is what God has given us as direction, that the parents are very primary in the development of faith and life. And I believe we're really at a Karis moment, in other words, we've all been saying, boy, I wish we had a start over, to take the silo ministries, the paradigms that we put into place, and we could kind of start over and not have to fight those old paradigms, but could start afresh. And here he did it. God gave us a start over. And now we can go back and really think deliberately about how we're going to start over. Okay, how are we going to do this? And if the church continues to model the old way, the way without, it's going to go back to the old way. We have this moment in time, and the question is, are we going to take advantage of it? Right? So,
Amen. Last question, Ben. God's given you this opportunity to train church leaders all over the world with how to partner with families. Tell us how people could get connected with the Concordia Center for the Family, and how the Concordia Center for the Family could help support churches who the light bulbs are going off. They know they've got to equip the home. Have this be your closing shot here.
Yeah, and what I would really, you can always go to concordiacenterforthefamily.org and you can look at what we're doing. But what God has given me the opportunity to do is I'm training pastors worldwide, literally impacting millions of families, just giving them the knowledge, skills, and attitudes. I created this class called Fam 101 for Pastors, and it's not this huge activity it's just knowledge, skills, and attitudes. And I'm amazed at what they can do with that knowledge, skills, and attitudes. Okay. And so what I would offer is that Concordia Center for the Family, connecting with all of our partners in Visionary Family, Faith Legacy, Family Time, Inverse Ministries, Marriage God's Way, all of these different have the opportunity to help you get the training and provide you with the resources you need. I pray that, in fact, here's my second challenge. I'm going to challenge you this way. I think all the presenters and all the groups, that non-for-profits that are involved with family ministry right now, and everybody listening, I'm going to challenge us to get together for a conversation, not a convention, but a conversation about how we can help the church stay on track to support families for the sake of the third and fourth generation. And I'm going to ask Rob, you got to lead this thing, my friend. We've got to get this conversation going to support you. Because remember, when we were in youth ministry ages ago, Group Publishing had these wonderful conferences. It's youth specialties, Jim Burns and all these guys, Doug Field. We'd sit at their feet, and the conference was great, but it was the in-between time, our conversation, that really motivated us and got us going. I think that's what we need to do in the future. If we're going to stay on track for this whole ministry, this whole movement, maybe it's this. Maybe this is God's time for all of us to say, families matter to Christ and his kingdom. So let's get on it. Let's get that movement continue to move forward for his kingdom, not for our sake, not another thing to make us look good, but just following God's will and humble our hearts and see what God can do through us.
Amen. Ben, thank you for taking this time to encourage us today. It means so much to me and everybody that's tuned in live, and we'll be catching up with the recording. Remember, folks, these 7 online events are available to you at equipfamilies.net, and we are here to serve you and come alongside you as we seek to have the church and the home partner together for the advance of the gospel. Thanks for tuning in today. God bless you.
Thank you, Rob.